simmer down.
I'm ready.
Now I'm not sure that I am. Okay, so I don't want to start like that. Let me try again. Are you ready?
Well,
so yesterday's sermon, loved it, BT dubs. But also, you talked about winning.
right.
So it made me think about like times where we win something unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So I was going to tell you one time and then you'll tell me one time.
Okay. Got it.
So I, when I was in like, I don't know, probably 8th or 9th grade, Destiny's Child was like big. This is so pre-Beyonce on her own. This is
Of
Destiny's
course.
Child
Yeah.
Survivor
I was about to say
specifically.
Survivor.
Yeah.
Peak
It was
Destiny's
like
Child.
just coming out.
Yeah.
And my sister had some like friends over. And like, just to be clear about the kind of cool kid I was, for my 13th birthday, I got my own telephone, not cell phone. Those weren't a thing yet. Not really. And
Was it one of those like clear ones that?
Yeah, 100%. Where you could see the inside. Well, mine was like kind of clear, but it was also like green.
So I was gonna ask if it was green for some reason.
It was green, and it was you could see the inside,
Yes.
but it didn't have a cord. It was cordless, and I had my own phone line, like my own number.
Oh,
I know, big time. I know that was what I got for my 13th birthday. It was a big deal, and so I used that phone number, and I called into a radio station. My sister was having like friends over. They were having like a sleepover. And they were listening to the radio station, and I won the Destiny's Child CD, the Survivor CD, and maybe something else. I don't remember whatever the other thing is. And I was so stoked because, you never win. But I just happened, like, you just keep calling.
Yes.
You hang up when it's like, sorry, your number. And I just happened to get it. But they could hear the party in the background. So when I hung up the phone, they kept talking about how... You think she was at a party? Like, I sounded way cooler on the way because of my like. So if I was like 13, my sister would have been like 9.
Yeah.
So the 9-year-olds
Y'all
really
were,
hyped up my cool credit. Just to be clear,
awesome.
I did not use that phone hardly ever, and so eventually my mom just like turned it off, and I didn't even notice.
That's funny.
Because I never used it.
That's so funny.
But by then AOL was like. I was always on the
There are
IM
so
chats.
many things in that story that if you're probably like under the age of 20, you're like,
I don't know what's happening.
what are all the things you're talking about?
I know it does actually make me feel really old. But I was like, this is just my reality, folks.
I can't help but call things CDs still. So like
Even if it's just like
Taylor
an
Swift
album.
came out with a new CD, and Hannah will be looking at me like, no, those aren't a thing.
No, I did get the
have to, like,
vinyl though,
That's
because that
cool.
is a thing. Now.
That is, so, yeah.
That's come back.
Yep. That's good.
So what's your unexpected random win?
My unexpected win was a John Mayer concert. Me and Hannah.
You know how we feel about John Mayer, the Swifties. I mean, it's fine.
Well, just hold your applause.
Okay. It's fine. Just
Anyway,
continue.
so, and then Hannah's sister, Mallory, and her husband, Jordan, were in town. And so we went, it was at NRG. No, it was at Toyota Center. And we had like nosebleed somewhere way up in the top. And when we came in, there was this guy like at the base of the escalator who was like, upgrade your tickets for free. And I was like, what is he talking about? So we just like walked up and he's like, how many tickets you want? We're like, well, 4. He's like, okay, here. We exchanged our tickets. And then we walked down and we were in the like very bottom, not like floor seats, but like in the base bowl.
Yeah.
With like not on like the side, like in the like kind of nooked corner where like,
Yeah.
and it was like, how did we just score these amazing...
It feels so
that
dicey.
were like probably like 3 times the price of what we paid to get in here.
Wow. They probably just didn't want it to look empty.
I think that was it. I think, because I do think he was like a legit like something with
his like
either
John Mayer.
with John Mayer or with the Toyota Center or something.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they were probably just trying to get people to come down.
Yeah.
And we just happened to like be at the right place at the right time.
That's awesome.
I know. It was so cool.
I mean, it would be way better if it was for somebody better. It's okay.
Comment.
I loved John Mayer.
So sorry.
Like in college.
Oh yeah.
Like
really?
Yeah, up until like I
actually
until he
didn't
started dating Jessica Simpson, and then it went weird.
I didn't like John Mayer at first.
Yeah.
Like Your Body is a Wonderland, John Mayer.
Yeah. That's not the vibe. The vibe is
not
like
my world.
The quarter life century one. Or quarter life crisis. That was like,
yeah.
That was my vibe.
Yeah. More like blues player John Mayer. I'm a big fan because he's a good guitar. He's a really good guitar player.
I mean, he's a very talented musician and like lyricist, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Not sure, I don't know what happened with him and Taylor, but it was bad.
It was bad.
But okay.
Let the records show.
That you stand by that. That's good because there's several girls in our youth group who would come for you if you didn't say that. I couldn't protect you. I wouldn't be able to. Those are some very I like how both our random wins involve music.
That is kind of cool.
I was trying to think of one that didn't, but I can't. Oh, yeah. I won movie tickets once on the radio also.
Oh, really?
To see Twilight. like New Moon or something like that.
So cool.
I know. And what's worse is like I was a full adult at that juncture. Like I was definitely a full adult. Like in my 20s, yeah. Yeah, don't judge.
I'm sure I could think of something else, but that was the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. We didn't actually just talk about winning yesterday.
No, we didn't.
But we did talk about how love conquers.
We did. And look, for those that I wore my Nikes to the podcast today. Those who listen to the sermon know.
It's really good. Let's talk about winning and love and Nike.
And Nike.
Well, I'm Becca. I'm the pastor of Family Ministries here at Katy First.
And I'm Mark. I'm the senior pastor here at Katy First.
Welcome to Katy First Family Podcast, where we offer ideas, encouragement, and inspiration to help you and your family grow as joyful disciples of Jesus Christ. This week, we're talking about love more.
Yes.
Still.
Finally, in the end.
Yeah.
All things.
I loved it.
All things.
No
love.
pun intended.
Yeah.
It really is one of those things. The other night we do like movie nights on Fridays with Sammy. I was just telling you about this. And we were watching Wish. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Which
big fan.
I really love it.
Underrated.
100%. It's so good. And so we were watching it and it was really scary. And Sammy was starting to get it's really scary if you're two. And he was starting to get a little bit like fidgety about it. Yeah. And without thinking, and because I am way too cheesy, I was like, it's okay, Sammy. It's not over. If the bad guys are still winning, the story's not over. Mm-hmm. And like just without thinking about it. But that popped into my brain when you were preaching yesterday, just about this idea of finality and love. Yeah. I don't want to say love winning because that just feels like cheesy, even though that is.
I had to like intentionally sort of not use that phrase because I know it does, but yeah.
Yeah.
So if I needed to expand on that sermon.
Yes.
One of the things that I would have said, and just to sort of like recap it sort of quickly, which is actually because we spent so long talking about love and kind of led into this final part where John talks about love conquers all. Well, God conquers all. Those who believe in Jesus the Christ conquers. And but John's been talking about how that's really just love this whole time. Yeah. And how it could be so simple to like kind of get on board with all the ideas of what we talked about. But then like when reality hits, kind of like, yeah, but in the end, like, love sounds nice, but all these other things are really making stronger demands on my life that I have to really respond to. So then maybe John ends his letter kind of like with this imaginative, like, well, no, like in the end, really, truly, love conquers all things, and ties it to, of course, Jesus, and like trusting that loving thing is what can keep moving us forward, even if, and especially as we experience a lot of letdowns and setbacks and failures and all sorts of things. Like, in the end, until love has the final word, nothing's ever finished. No chapter's ever done. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking about Disney movies, but really any movie. I mean, so in any movie, when there's always like this sort of like tension of like, oh, just stereotypically, if the bad guy gets the power, mm-hmm. oh man, we won't survive. Mm-hmm. And like, if you begin to see this, you begin to see like in any good movie, eventually they need to get the superpower that you're super scared of them actually getting. Mm. And that's true in Wish, mm-hmm. because he does finally and like crushes everything. Yep. This is true in Moana, which I think is like a beautiful picture of God's redemption. It's true in Indiana Jones, when they get the Ark of the Covenant and they get it. Mm-hmm. And almost invariably in all of those, you need to see the very worst have its moment, mm-hmm. and then to realize that doesn't win the day. Mm-hmm. And then usually the like conclusion is either that sort of bad thing falls back on the villain, or in some cases there's just a different way that you weren't thinking about that sort of resolves this in a better thing. And I think that's tied to what John is saying. Like, in the end, love conquers. It overcomes. It always has the ability to keep overcoming. And until that's fully known, like, the story's never over. Mm-hmm. And we can trust in that. Lay our vulnerable trust in this idea. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, obviously it's super powerful, but I think we kind of know it. I think it's why it shows up in cinema all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very true. Like, that is a core piece of humanity, is this. I don't think it's an ideal. I think it's a truth that's written in our DNA, that even though really awful things happen, that really beautiful things also are don't just also happen, but like this redemptive understanding of how goodness and love win out. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's just aspirational. I think it's a truth. And so I think it's written into all our stories and stuff. Not even just, like I said, not as something we're aspiring to or hoping for. Yeah. And the thing that's difficult about that is that it doesn't always feel true in the immediacy.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things, like, we talk about in chapel with our littles, right, our preschoolers, is like just some core characteristics of who God is. So God is good. Mm-hmm. We can trust God. Mm-hmm. And then what naturally follows that is, because God is good, we can trust that God will take our bad things and make them good again. But sometimes the timeline on that is long, which is why I appreciated your quote from Dr. Martin Luther King about the arc of justice being long. And I mean, I see that personally in my own life, where something really brutal happens, mm-hmm. and eventually it's redeemed. But I mean, there have been times in my life where it's 10, 15 years mm-hmm. Before I can look back and see, mm-hmm. It was always working out. There was no way in the moment I could have seen, mm-hmm. and really, I think there are times I've missed it too. Yeah. But it's such a powerful thing to, like, I love that the ability to say that, okay, well, it's God that wins, but because God is love, right? That there's this like interconnected, like, it could go either way. Mm-hmm. We're not, the true essence of God is goodness and love. Mm-hmm. And that always wins. That's a powerful thing to plant yourself in. Right. It's just, I mean, you just weather things differently. You just experience joy differently. Yeah. knowing that that's the case. I think that's a pretty powerful place to be.
Yeah.
I felt like yesterday there was a lot of like feeling in the room in general because we named something, let me not take your credit. Because in your sermon, you got to name something so true about the Christian experience.
Yeah. That
sometimes feels like it gets drowned out by other noise.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like there's been a lot of noise, like especially like the last several years. Sometimes that noise comes from people who also are saying that they're speaking from the Bible or speaking in the name of God.
Yeah.
And that has been rough.
Yeah.
For people who are trying to claim this core identity that we see in Scripture of who God is.
Yeah.
And what that means for us as God's people.
Yeah.
And so to have a worship service where we just, like, we said the thing, like, this is who God is, this ever expanding, ever widening grace and love that is in fact victorious at the end. I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think, there was so much in the air, especially this week as United Methodist in our general conference, which we've talked about. We're going to this week, have a bonus, maybe more bonus episodes to kind of get all the things of general conference, because it's been a lot. But we talked especially this week about one that was the headline in our denomination, where all the restrictive language around human sexuality that has been there for 50 years was removed this week. Which even for like you and I, who are pastors and tapped into it, was a surprising week.
Shocked.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a ground moving sort of week. But the fact that it's sort of tied in with this sermon, with this series, with this question, what does love require of you? Can't plan that, No. I mean, that was just really pretty incredible. But anyway, so all that to say, we'll talk more about that, I think, in a separate episode.
Yeah,
how we can sort of talk about it in our families. But I think you could see what Dr. King says, that the moral arc of the universe is long and bent towards justice. That does play out, but it's so hard to trust that.
Yeah. And
I think that's why I wanted to spend a moment on that John 5:1 verse. Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is a child of God. I should remember how the back end of that goes. But the first part, like, we just so quickly sort of gloss over the idea of belief as this just sort of mental assent, as opposed to like this deep trusting thing, because to trust that all that what if John has said could actually be true, that in the end all this thing conquers, is such a vulnerable, like, if you really don't just say it and then walk out the door and live it totally, but like if you really try to embrace that as truth, that you want to shape your whole life around, that you're going to try to adapt your mentality around, that you're going to try to grow into, it is such a vulnerable posture to take in such a difficult world. And I think it's very true that some would look at it and think of it as pretty foolish, and I could understand why they would see it as foolish. 100%. But the way in which we are kind of invited to go into this, if you say, I think I even said, like, love is the future, which is off a t-shirt that Miley has. Sounds sort of fluffy. Rainbows and sparkles and fairies. But to trust that and to live that is so gritty and hard. It takes such resilience and persistence. And I just, I think there is an aspect of this that on first glance is really motivational and exciting. And then like you sit with it and you go, ooh, this is a lot. And you really have to sort of, it goes back to that word of faith and trust and belief, all that wrapped up in that word better means something, because when push comes to shove at the end of the day, you're probably, because it's just most of us, we do this. We're probably not going to do what love requires of us. We're probably going to do what our family, job, our own sort of self-protection requires of us. And it's not that those don't always align, but sometimes they don't.
Right.
And so I feel like it's such a powerful thing. I find such inspiration from people like Dr. King, who, and many others, he gets all the respect for it, but so many others who sort of live that in reality. People within our churches who've been marginalized forever, who had no other choice but to live that reality and to trust the long patience of God's love is going to win, conquer. And then you get a day like this Sunday where you go, oh, it's true. And it's just like, it just overwhelms you. It's such a powerful, and then you go, and the beat goes on, and we still have to keep asking the question, what does love require of us?
Because there's more.
Because there's more. There's more ways that we need to live into this.
I was thinking about yesterday when you, as part of your sermon, you wanted to demonstrate a trust fall. There's a trend going around TikTok right now where, you have two people, somebody starts to fall back and then they let the person fall. And it started as like a weird church thing where they'd be like, trust not the ways of man and like but trust in the Lord or something like that. And now it's gone to like, it's like definitely an ad where people will be like, other things will let you down, but not this product or whatever, But I was just like, is he going to do that right now? Like, is he going to fall down the stairs on purpose? Because I don't think that's going to end well. Like I was thinking to myself, how fast can I move? Because it's not that fast. I was trying to be there for you, buddy.
I did want people to have a little bit of feeling about that, though.
I had fear.
That was because I wanted that, like, there needs to be more than a mental idea of something here.
It was a very good demonstration.
Cool.
All right. So practicing trust in love for ourselves, for our families. It's tough. And beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have found some inspiration and encouragement for yourself and for your family. If you'd like to get these weekly podcasts delivered directly to you, you can subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I know, I just like saying Spotify. Don't judge me. For more information about Katy First and upcoming events for you or your family, you can visit our website at katyfirst.org. Most importantly, we want you to know that in the middle of your ordinary, messy life, whatever that looks like for you today, know that you are not alone, that you are doing a good job, and that you are loved.
And we hope that you'll join us on Sunday. It's Mother's Day.
It's Mother's Day.
It's Ascension Sunday, which maybe doesn't mean much to many people, but we're out of a series. No series. We're not.
Anything could happen.
We're seriesless for a couple of Sundays, but we would love to see you, or we'll just see you back here next week. Have a good week.